Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, drops a pretty major pipeline announcement, which is very, very surprising and could actually be quite beneficial to Alberta and or Canada. Then you also have Pierre Poilievre, who is back in Parliament, set to resume in Question Period tomorrow, which, by the way, if you want to see those streams of Question Period, head over to House of Canada. The link is down below in the description. Make sure you subscribe with post notifications to that channel because we're back to live streaming every single Question Period that happens. Then you have Mark Carney spending $13 billion. I don't know where he's getting the money, but 13 billion smackaroos on a new housing initiative for Canada. So we're going to be taking a look at that. And then CBC is also saying that, hey, political violence is a problem. From the right, I don't know, when we've seen a lot of recent, very tragic instances of the left committing political violence. But we're going to be taking a look at all of those stories and a few other ones in between. So I do hope you stick around for the full thing. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And as always, this is the first video that I record post church on Sunday, which is now the 4th or 5th Sunday that I take my family back to church. That's quite frankly due to Charlie Kirk's messaging. But a year ago, I decided, you know what, I think I'm going to start taking my family to church. It took me up until a year later, minus 4 or 5 weeks. And today's messaging was good. I'm not getting the tingly sensation that I first did, the shock and awe. Some people were calling it like the Holy Spirit was traveling through me. It's not as like impactful as it once was. I think the first or second time going back to church was like a huge surprise, but I do look forward to going back to church on Sundays, which is really fascinating. I'm still not there with like putting my hands up in the air when they sing the songs and stuff. But I am, going through the motions, and it does make me feel like a good person, a good father, a good husband, a good man to be going to church. It does feel like it's the right thing to do. And so again, I'm looking forward to going back next Sunday. And if you've been on the fence about going, I highly recommend that you explore what the best option for you should be. So if you've been thinking about going, maybe it's time to take that leap. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. Starting off with some pretty interesting news. Turning Point Canada was actually a thing that started maybe 5-6 years ago or 2018, but it's just kind of been sitting inactive, right? So many years ago, someone attempted to start Turning Point Canada, but it never got any huge traction and ultimately became inactive. Do you think it's time for the movement and the Canadian youth to finally have many strong conservative voices lead the way? And this obviously 18,000 likes, over 250,000 views. I mean, this is huge. Even Justin Trudeau's half brother says feels like a good idea. Anything to decentralize the power is really, really good. And I mean, just an overwhelming amount of support of people saying, yes, we should pick up the torch on behalf of Charlie Kirk and do Turning Point in Canada. So more on that later. We're going to have to see how this does turn out, right? Because that'll be kind of interesting. Then you have the Pleb posting that it's highly likely that far left Canadian YouTuber Rachel Gilmore will be banned from entering the United States of America over her posts about Charlie Kirk. U.S. Congress has demanded the 40,000 name database of Charlie Kirk celebrators be handed to them to facilitate bannings. And the source is right here from Expose Charlie Kirk's Murderers. We're working with the members of Congress to share our data with the U.S. government. If you're a foreigner that's celebrating Charlie's death, you'll be deported or you'll never step foot in American soil again. Well, maybe connect with the executive branch soon. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that does play out. And then you have breaking news. Fighter jets intercept a plane over President Trump's golf club in Badminster, New Jersey, which is kind of scary, man. So NORAD fighter jet intercepted a general aviation aircraft that violated temporary flight restriction airspace over Bedminster, New Jersey on September 13th. The civilian aircraft violated the TFR at approximately 1:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and was safely escorted out of the area by NORAD aircraft after the use of flares to draw the pilot's attention. That's a little crazy. And then somebody did ask Grok for details about the interception. And Grok said on September 13th, around 1:55, NORAD fighter jets intercepted a general aviation aircraft violating temporary flight restrictions. Flares were issued to alert the pilot, and the plane was safely escorted out. This This was one of 4 such violations over the weekend. No danger to the public, source NORAD press conference, which is scary. Scary that this is 4 things that happened, 4 violations that took place over the weekend. It just feels like everybody's on edge. Something feels like it's gonna happen that's really, really bad, and I don't want to see that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to be some other act of political violence from the left, from the right, from the center, for an act of, I don't know. Jesus coming back. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's all in the air. We're all feeling a little bit on edge, maybe heightened anxiety. And if you're feeling that way, that's probably a normal feeling, because tensions and the news cycle and politics is just crazy right now. Like, this isn't normal. At least this shouldn't be normal. This video is sponsored by Private Internet Access. Private Internet Access is my go-to VPN for many different reasons. It makes me feel safe when I'm browsing the internet. So it allows me to hide my identity, as well as make sure that the government isn't stealing my information and selling it to a bunch of private companies. It also gives me the ability to go on Netflix, Hulu, and all of the streaming platforms and take a look at content that wouldn't be available in Canada. So if I want to watch American content on Netflix, I can easily just boot up Private Internet Access. Some countries around the world, just like Canada, ban people from being able to view the news. So having a VPN like Private Internet Access allows you to get past that barrier. One subscription to Private Internet Access covers all of your devices. In fact, it's actually unlimited amount of devices, which is pretty freaking cool. If you want to take back control of your identity and your personal information when browsing online, then Private Internet Access is the VPN for you. If you click the link down below in the description, the pinned comment below, or scan the QR code on the screen, you get 83% off plus 4 months for free when you click the link down below in the description. You also get a 30-day money-back guarantee, which is phenomenal. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. And to add more fuel to the fire, of course, we've got CBC that puts out reports like this.
Nation itself, which sadly is part of a long American tradition. Even more disturbing is the calls for vengeance by the President of the United States himself, Donald Trump, and by supporters on the right, fear on the left. My great fear is that this could lead to an acceleration of acts of violence between members of this incredibly polarized political community. Frankly, a political community that Canada needs to start to draw away from. The United States is just too toxic, too dangerous right now. I have long advocated that we needed a more open border, but I am not advocating that anymore. I think, in fact, we need to keep our distance from the United States. It has become a very troubled place. Yeah, social media, of course, plays a role in this, but
so this guy's saying that it's Trump's fault and we need to keep Americans out of Canada? What the heck is going on? Trump isn't advocating for any type of vengeance or any type of violence. Like, this is insane propaganda and straight up disinformation from the left.
Look, this goes back a very long way. It's almost as though we have 2 McCarthys at the same time. Back in the 1950s, McCarthyism, led by the senator, targeted progressives and tried to discredit them, destroyed careers and lives. And it has been an accelerating process from then until now, in which we have, as I said, almost 2 McCarthys, a progressive movement and a conservative movement, Democrats and Republicans, whatever you want to call them, each at each other's throats, and each increasingly willing to say we have no toleration for the other. We even would accept levels of violence towards the other. That's something we have never seen before. I don't know what all the causes of it are. Social media is part of it, but there are other things that, as I say, that stretch back decades. What matters now, though, is that the United States is very, very sick in a way it has never been, I think, since the Civil War. It's a tragedy to watch it, and it's a danger to be near it.
So this is what's so insane about this, is this guy is saying that the United States is so dangerous, yet that's just factually incorrect. The violence that's taking place, the political violence, is fueled by narratives such as the CBC, such as CTV, such as CNN, right? Literally calling Trump, making correlations between Trump and Hitler and so on and so forth. Like, this is insane type of rhetoric. And to be frank, this is what's kind of leading to the political violence, or just violence in general. Trying to make America seem like the real big bad guys and the biggest threat to Canadians and to Canada is literally building anger for Canadians towards America, towards the American administration, towards Americans. They are literally part of the problem, trying to say, hey, look, there's a big problem and we need to stop it. Let me add to the problem by saying America and Americans are like the worst ever and we need to do something about it. We need to close our borders. What the heck? That doesn't even make any sense at all. America should want to close the borders from Canadians, because Canadians are the progressive, woke, kind of radical country, to be frank. Right? We keep voting in the same incompetent liberals. We are literally California spread across an entire nation. Like, that's kind of how Canada is, right? I understand Alberta is mostly conservative. BC's on the fence. Saskatchewan is conservative. I understand parts of Ontario. I get that. But just like looking at the map and the political spectrum, like we keep voting in the radical liberals and they keep fueling our media, right? CBC's funded by our government. You and me pay for CBC to function for them to be able to broadcast this. It's just so absurd, and it's just destroying our nation. It's destroying our culture here in the West. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. I don't even have it in me to be angry right now. I'm just sad. That's kind of weird. That's an emotion that you would think that I would be really angry right now, and maybe you are angry. I'm not trying to devalidate that, but I'm just like exhausted from all the anger that no matter how hard I try to be angry, I'm just extremely sad about the state of our media right now and our culture. It's really heartbreaking to see, because I've got two young kids, and one, I'd like to grow old and be able to raise them with good values, and two, I would like for my country to have good values, and it seems like we're shifting away from we're getting further and further away from that possibility to even exist, given the fact that so many people are just brainwashed in this country. We also have to take a look at this crazy story where a teacher, I believe in Toronto, has been suspended or fired for showing a classroom full of grade 5 and 6, right? So 10 and 11-year-olds, the assassination video of Charlie Kirk. This is what frightens me so much about the public school system, is you have teachers that are just insane. And it wasn't like an educational video like, oh, hey, everybody, this thing happened. Not that that makes it any better. It was, hey, this is a fascist and he deserved this, right? Like, that was the context in which the teacher showed it. Can you imagine sending your 10-year-old to school and they go and get told by the teacher, who has a position of authority over them, hey, yeah, this person out here who's on the right, or who's center of right, who's going to college campuses and trying to debate people openly about politics and their views on religion, yeah, he deserves this. Are you kidding me, man? This is crazy. This is honestly what, like, this type of behavior has me going, I'm going to homeschool my kids. I just don't agree with this at all. It's so frightening.
Well, the Toronto District School Board is investigating after a teacher reportedly showed part of the video of Kirk's assassination to some young students. The school board has not released the name of the teacher, only that they were a staff member at the Corvette Junior Public School. The school's principal says the teacher had been supervising a class of French immersion students in grades 5 and 6 when the video was shown, adding that the teacher was relieved of all responsibilities until an investigation was complete. Well, the Toronto
yeah, I mean, that scares the freaking crap out of me, man. When this stuff happens, like it's just, I understand that that's an isolated instance, but think of all the times that teachers like this are giving, like trying to program the kids' minds to push the messaging that people on the right are fascists, or they're Nazis, and Trump is a Hitler, or similar to Hitler, or reincarnation, like all these things. Like, it's just disgusting behavior. The days where you didn't know your teacher's last name, you didn't know what your teacher did for hobbies and stuff like that. Like, your teacher was just there to teach you history or math or science or English. Those days are gone. It seems like the teachers try to take their personal, and now more than ever, their political views, and impose that on young, impressionable children. And then when they're confronted by parents at parent-teacher meetings and stuff like that, oftentimes the schools don't end up doing anything about it. It's gross. It's sickening. This is why you're seeing a massive reduction of people that are attending the public school system. Like, it's a real thing. Parents don't want to send their kids into this indoctrination camp. And I'm kind of joining that list of people that don't want their kids being a part of this indoctrination education system. It's kind of gross, but let me know what you guys think down below. Moving on to what's going on in Parliament, Pierre Poilievre is back, and we're going to take a brief look at what he had to say in Parliament this morning.
It's great to be back on the job on Parliament Hill, doing the job that Canadians need done. Thank you. The Liberals made a lot of really wonderful promises, and we wanted them, the good promises, the ones we agreed with, to succeed. And that's why we collaborated in the spring session to help get things done that we wanted. And even though they were often too small and too late, we wanted to be a helpful part of the solution. And we want for the country to succeed. And that's why we need to take a very careful look at Mr. Carney's many promises and compare them to the results.
And we're going to save the bashing for tomorrow, because you're not going to want to miss the Parliament, the House of Commons, the House of Canada question period that does take place, because Pierre Poilievre has been waiting, right? He hasn't been in Parliament. He hasn't done what he does best in quite a few months. And it's going to be pretty interesting. And one of the things he's going to be heavily criticizing is this next policy that Mark Carney just enacted, which is the fact that Carney government launched a Build Canada Homes with a $13 billion, and the key word here is initial investment. So it's not a $13 billion investment. It's a $13 billion to get started investment. Where are we getting this money from? Where we be getting the money from? Oh my goodness, this doesn't make any sense. Prime Minister Carney's government is making an initial capital investment of $13 billion to launch Ottawa's new affordable housing plan. Carney officially launched Build Canada Homes, a government agency focused on building more affordable homes, at an event in Nepean, Ontario, Sunday afternoon. The Prime Minister announced today an initial plan to utilize public land to build 4,000 factory homes at sites in 6 cities across Canada. So oh my goodness, $13 billion is only going to build 4,000 homes. Oh, what does that even work out to be? So when you do 13 billion divided by 4,000 homes, because that's the amount of money going into it, and it's going to produce 4,000 affordable homes, that's $3,250,000. Each home is costing $3,250,000 to build. What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. $3,250,000 to build one affordable home times 4,000. Canada, what on earth are you doing? Oh mon Dieu. This is just freaking bananas, man.
To see what you can build and how fast you can build. Congratulations.
What you can build and how fast you can build. Yeah, for what did I say? $3,250,000 per home. That's a little sketchy, man. I don't know. I don't know if I want to be a part of this. I don't know if I want to pay for this.
The change is just beginning. We need to keep moving with speed and determination, because the upheaval in the global trading system is not a transition, it's a rupture. And its effects are already profound. Workers displaced from their jobs, supply chains disrupted, and massive amounts of investment held back due to extreme uncertainty. Now more than ever, we need to take control of our destiny. We're transforming Canada's economy from one that had become too reliant on a single trading partner to an economy that's more diverse, more resilient, that's built for Canadian workers and their families. The Canadian government's 7 core missions will build our economy, protect our workers, and empower Canadians to seize the opportunities that will arise from this transformation. We won't just manage through this crisis. We will prosper from it. We're focusing on our government's mission to make housing more affordable for all Canadians. You know, young Canadians are doing everything right. They're studying hard, finding a job, saving up. Yet for too many of them, rent is unaffordable, and home ownership feels entirely out of reach. Across the country, it takes nearly 4 years for first-time home buyers to save for a down payment, and in markets such as Toronto and Vancouver, even longer. So we're in a housing crisis, as Gregor said, and it's going to take all hands on deck to get us out of it. Our private sector, our provinces and territories, municipalities, nonprofits, and Indigenous partners, all working together to speed up and scale up home building, to build the affordable housing that all Canadians deserve. And so today, Minister of Housing and I are proud to launch Build Canada Homes, a new federal entity that will supercharge housing construction across Canada. Build Canada Homes will do several things. It will help fight homelessness by building transitional and supportive housing in close partnership with provinces, territories, municipalities, and Indigenous communities.
For $3.2 million per home, I just don't understand how this makes any sense at all. Like, there's no world. That's not even a luxury home. That's like a crazy expensive luxury home in Canada. I understand housing prices have gone up, but for like $1.5 million out in the sticks in like Alberta and even in British Columbia, or $2 million, you can get a really nice brand new house. For $3.5 million, apparently that gets you an affordable home in Canada. Good job, Mark Carney. Good job. But now let's shift away from Mark Carney and take a look at Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, and what this really big pipeline announcement is.
It's great to see you again. Thanks so much for making the time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So Mr. Poilievre, the leader of the federal Conservatives, called this major projects list, quote, pathetic. You said in response to it, leaders in Ottawa finally, quote, get it. What do you know that he doesn't?
I would say one of the big things that I was pleased to see is that these are the kind of projects that have historically been very hard to build in the last 10 years. LNG, you've got a couple of mining projects, gold and copper, you've got the Darlington nuclear plant, even the high-speed rail. There's a lot of difficulty in always building out on linear projects. And so I think that they've got the right target. That says to me that they're looking at the kind of things that we know are going to be productivity enhancing, generate some revenue. And that was what we wanted to see, because I think it bodes well for the projects that are a priority for Alberta, which include bitumen pipelines.
I wanted to ask you about one of the underlying conditions that you have brought up, and that is around the emissions cap on the oil and gas sector. There's a report out from Reuters that the government is considering rescinding it in exchange for other carbon reducing measures by oil companies. Was that conveyed to you by the Prime Minister?
That is what I've conveyed to the Prime Minister since I first got elected. We put forward our own emissions reduction and energy development plan, and I told former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that we were prepared to work towards a 2050 target of carbon neutrality. And instead of accepting that and trying to find ways to work together, we just kept seeing one bad law after another. What this Prime Minister seems to understand is you cannot put arbitrary interim targets in place. 2030 is only 5 years away. 2035 is only 10 years away. There just simply isn't enough time to try to achieve some of the aggressive targets that his predecessor had put forward without causing these projects either to be canceled altogether or to be shut in. So I think I'm seeing some pragmatism there that's very positive. And if we can align around our goals for both building the economy and achieving emissions reduction around 2050, I think we're going to be able to see some major projects go ahead.
If I understand one area that you both do align on, it's that emissions reductions can occur through the Pathways Alliance, allowing for either removal of the emissions cap or, for example, the construction of a new pipeline. And I just want to ask you, because the Alliance has essentially argued for it to go forward, it needs to increase the share of operating and essentially building the capital costs from 50 to 75%, the share of government or taxpayer money that it receives. What do you say to people across the country right now who are facing very high costs and taxes in their own life about more of their money going to oil companies that are already very profitable?
Well, I think I'd frame it a little bit differently. We have always let energy companies keep their own profits so that they can invest in technologies. I mean, we had a royalty framework for the Pathways group of companies where they didn't start paying royalties until they paid off their capital investment. And now that most of them are in payout, it's generating billions of dollars, not only for us, but billions in profit that are also taxed at the federal level. And so I hope people see it that way, that by allowing them to invest more of what they earn in these kinds of emissions reducing technologies, it allows them to create a new revenue stream. And that's why I'm linking those two. The Pathways project is probably a $10 to $20 billion project, but a million barrel a day bitumen pipeline will generate about $20 billion a year in revenues. So when you have that long-term revenue stream, it just kind of makes sense to balance those two things. And I think the Prime Minister is moving in that direction and seems to agree.
But is it a guarantee if that project for Pathways goes ahead, which again, like your government is already giving between $3 and $5 billion, the federal government more than $8 billion. If that goes ahead, that necessarily means that an oil pipeline will. You mentioned a couple months ago, for example, you thought that a proponent was going to come forward any week, and none has. Even last week, the federal energy minister said no pipeline proponent has come forward.
I think we all understand a bit how pipelines are built. The way we had to make sure that the new administration at the federal level understood that is the way pipelines get built by the private sector is that the pipeline companies go out and they ask those who bring the oil out of the ground, are you willing to pledge barrels? And right now the answer is no, because there's an emissions cap, there's net zero power regs, there's a greenwashing regulation that might put them in jail for talking about their emissions reductions. And so that's why it's a package.
The pitch, though, for example, in exchange for that pipeline is carbon sequestration. Mm-hmm. And this idea that the federal government is now using, that you've employed this term decarbonized oil. Like, mm-hmm. Yes, that reduces or even eliminates carbon in the processing of it. It doesn't on the other end of things, right? When oil gets used, there is still carbon. Like, essentially, if all this stuff that you're asking for goes away, there is no more emissions reduction plan.
Well, I would tell you that one of the things that I think may not be well understood, and we're trying to make sure it is well understood, is that there's 6,000 products that come from a barrel of oil. And our heavy oil in particular, in a lot of refining circumstances, it goes to make asphalt. So if you have 60% of the product going to make asphalt, that is a non-combustion use. So if you have a decarbonized product and you're using it for non-combustion purposes, it really is just a construction material, a building material. We've funded 16 different projects to look for bitumen beyond combustion, for carbon nanofiber, for the potential for development of batteries and various other uses. And so I would say that is the way the industry is going, is how do we reduce emissions, not how do we reduce production. And I think that the history of this industry has demonstrated that they are very, very good at finding new uses for their product, and I have every expectation they're going to in the future as well.
And I do take that point, but I can't find a single scientist who says decarbonized oil is anything but a fantasy. Like, is this something you and the Prime Minister have invented to justify a total retreat on climate?
Well, I think it's a three-part approach. One is you capture the emissions at source and bury them underground to either store them or use them for enhanced oil recovery. And quite frankly, we've been doing this for decades. That is not new technology. That is something that that is well established.
But at this scale, it's very new.
Well, 40 megatons of CO2 have been captured by the project in Weyburn in Saskatchewan using captured CO2 from a coal plant. So it's been going on for some time. So yeah, it can be done at scale.
The Pathways project would be much bigger.
It's 16 billion megatons a year is what 16 megatons a year is what I've been told is going to be the carbon capture component. The other component is switching to different types of energy, and so we've been talking with the Prime Minister and our counterparts about how we can create a true interconnected transmission grid that would allow us to bring on hydro, might allow us to bring on nuclear, and we could have an integrated market. That's another way of bringing down the use of natural gas at the front end. But then also being able to do direct air capture. And we've got a major installation in central Alberta that is looking at ways that you should capture CO2 from the atmosphere. And that's what I look at as the last mile that helps with the issue of tailpipe emissions as well. So I think that we're well advanced on all aspects of technology. And the industry seems to be confident that they can get there by 2050. So we're going to encourage them in that.
I'll leave it on that.
Canada has some of the best and cleanest ways of extracting oil from the ground, right? We are just leaps and bounds ahead, yet under Justin Trudeau and probably still under Mark Carney, we just aren't using our own people, our own citizens to expedite the process, even though it's way cleaner. We would rather get dirty Saudi oil than use our own. Wouldn't you rather gas be like 80 cents or 65 cents instead of this $1.70, $1.80, $2 some places in Canada, $1.50 right now, maybe $1.40 in Alberta? This is absolutely insane. I think that Alberta just needs to be left alone so that they can do what they need to do to continue producing more oil. But that's my opinion. I'd love to know your guys' opinion down below in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.